Hey there, this is Jim Donovan. Welcome to the show. I am so glad you're here. Today we have a very special guest. He's a good friend of mine. His name is Arthur Hall. Arthur is a worldwide rhythm ambassador. This guy has been teaching people how to lead drum circles for decades. He has been in Asia, over 34 countries, Europe, North America, South America. He is really the preeminent voice for the drum circle movement for the last several decades. Really pleased to have him here. He's also been written up in Time Magazine and the Wall Street Journal, and today we have him here on the show. It's a great conversation. I can't wait for you to hear it, and let's get started.
And we do this deep listening process where everybody's playing a trance groove. By the end of the 6-day program, we've had 6 late nights or 5 late night programs, so they know about trance groove. They're not going anywhere, and somebody listens to where they're sitting in the chair, and then they put the drum off to the side. Everyone else keeps drumming. They listen again as they slowly stand up and hear the difference between what it sounds like when you're sitting in your chair, when you're standing. And then they step one at a time, slowly listening to the circle as it changes.
Wow.
To get to the middle. Then they face their empty chair, close their eyes, and figure out whatever strategy they need to figure out where they fit in that circle. And then with their eyes closed, they turn around once. Sometimes they're turning around 3 times and they think it's only once.
Like that?
With their eyes closed.
Oh.
And with their eyes closed, they find the empty chair.
Whoa.
Then with their eyes closed, they point to the empty chair, and then they open their eyes and find out that they're pointing somewhere else. But the objective is not to hit the target. The object is to do the exercise for deep listening.
Now, did you think of that on an airplane or something?
That'd be nice. And so at the end of the process, we just put our drums down and sit there for 2 or 3 minutes because we've been playing for 45 minutes trance drum without being facilitated, right?
Right.
And it's a great meditation. At the same time, it's a great learning process. And then we start talking about what the experience was for us.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah. Okay. Hi.
Hey, it is so good to see you. How have things been? Are you in Santa Cruz?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah. In other words, we're safe.
You guys,
Relatively speaking, we've had 100 or so cases and 3 or 4 people pass away. But down south in Monterey, the party city, there's 500 cases and so on and so forth. I am old. I'm obese. I have a part of a lung missing from my
I remember that. Yeah.
Military days, and so I'm a target. So Diana doesn't let me go out. I've got a wonderful compound, and I've got a community to work with via the Zoom and everything else. We have our international meetings on Mondays.
Yeah.
And I got plenty of Legos.
I hear that you like the Legos. That is awesome. We'll talk about that.
I've rebuilt my pond for the 8th time. So this is pond number 8.
Okay.
And the koi are happy, and so am I. So yeah, I'm in good stead. Everything is fine. Getting off the road actually is after 30 years. Okay. Is wonderful, and I'm not feeling. I haven't got cabin fever. I've got so much work to do, but I've run out of excuses about writing the next book, kind of thing, right?
Right. I'm glad that I knew that you would be putting your time to good use, and I haven't traveled overseas as much as you have, but I get the being out of the vehicles, being out of the highway. and just like really sinking into the home vibe.
Yeah,
It's definitely a transition from to like whoa.
yeah,
I like
yeah.
it too. I like it too. I wish
So
it
how
wasn't
are
under
you
these
doing?
circumstances. Yeah.
Yeah, and how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Everybody's healthy. Uh, that's the first thing. I'm healthy, and like you, I'm finding different ways to do the work I do, and I really miss playing live music. That's been a bigger sadness. But I was able to get together with my guys last week outside in like a big socially distanced circle, and we actually played a little bit, and that felt good. So
Uh,
I'm very fortunate. I don't have anything to complain about.
right. A lot of our community, Drum Circle Facilitator community, are experimenting with social distancing drum circles and coming up with different ideas that do work. So it's
Yeah,
cool.
it's
Yeah.
good stuff, and a lot of the people that will listen on the podcast. So we now have this is our first Zoom video that I'm doing for our podcast. So this will be on
Cool.
YouTube, which I'm stoked about. And then the people that listen on the podcast on Spotify and Stitcher and all those places, they're going to be listening in. And a lot of them, I think, maybe have never been to a drum circle before. I haven't talked about it on the show yet, and I wanted you to be the first. And so, for someone who's never been, could you just talk about what the heck is a drum circle and why might somebody want to attend?
Absolutely. Um, uh, is the interview started now?
It can, yeah, yeah.
Okay, I'm ready.
I figured just ready to go.
Um, my God. Um, for someone first walking into a drum circle situation is it's um, in some ways probably awe-inspiring. It's a whole different kind of environment, and other ways scary and intimidating at first, depending on the kind of circle, and 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 the word drum circle, okay, has a lot of different breakdowns and connotations. In the old days, not so old, drum circle meant hippies in the park smoking dope, and you got
not
to go
not the
through that
dope part,
sometimes.
just in the park.
Just in the park, okay. Um, and free form, we call them free form anarchist drum circles. People get together and they just jump out with whatever they got, and the rhythm goes until it falls apart, and then it starts up again, and you go, hey man, that was cool, let's do another one. um, then there's culturally specific drum circles, which means usually you're not invited unless you know something about that culture. Afro-Cuban drum circles in Berkeley, um, African oriented, West African djembe stuff, that kind of stuff. Now you got to walk in with some knowledge about culturally specific rhythms and about playing parts and holding on to that part to to create a musical representation of a particular culturally specific rhythm that's connected to a song, that's connected to a dance, that's connected to a activity. Because you don't drum unless you dance, and you don't dance unless you drum, and you don't dance and drum unless you sing. And usually the rhythms from Africa have a purpose.
Yeah, and they're old.
Harvesting,
They're very old too.
yeah, very old. Harvesting, planting, flirting, making babies, having babies, hopefully in that order. Maybe marriage should be in the middle.
Somewhere.
Um, um, Marriage ceremonies, and that kind of stuff. And it doesn't just pertain to Africa, it pertains to lots of different cultures, rhythmic cultures, I call them, all over
Yeah,
the world, where
I like
rhythm
that.
is just a part of everyday life. You don't just go to rhythm church on Sunday, okay?
Right.
Um, but the kind of circles that I'm involved with normally is the facilitated kind, so that there's someone who's advertising and putting this event on, and they are helping to facilitate the connection of the rhythms. And that to me is the safest circle. The safest circle is a family-friendly community drum circle that's facilitated. So if you walk into it, it looks like everybody's doing their thing, and that's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
And the facilitator is helping facilitate that connection, the deeper listening. And in some ways, through experiential training that you don't necessarily recognize or realize, they're showing you how to listen to each other, how to collaborate, how to cooperate. They're bringing the volume down so you can listen. They're asking certain sections. They're showcasing certain individuals and asking everyone else to stop and listen to the connection of the song of maybe all the low drums. And now you hear the low drum song amongst all the other, quote, noise, and you go, oh, right? And then he brings everybody, or she brings everybody back into the music, and you'll never not hear the low drums again. So you're being educated. So good facilitators teach without teaching.
Right.
And so now a beginner comes in and sits down at a drum circle. It doesn't matter what they're playing. Eventually, if it's a facilitated drum circle, they're going to be introduced to all the different sections, low drums, medium drums, all the percussions keep on playing, all the drummers stop, and you go, oh, you go, whoa, I didn't hear that before,
Yeah.
and then they bring all the drummers back in, you go, whoa, and all of a sudden, there's spice in the
Yeah.
food.
It's like they're
Right?
getting an ear training, but it's not. We don't call it an ear training. We're just playing.
Right. And you find out that you can't make a mistake. And in fact, if you do make a mistake and it sounds good, please repeat it.
Exactly.
Uh,
Exactly.
and that you could stop and scratch. You get up, go to the bathroom, come on back. It's like it's not a performance, and
Right.
you don't get judged. And the everyone wants you to collaborate with what rhythmical spirit you have, regardless of your rhythmical expertise or musical. So if it's only one note, you're going boom, that's good enough. And in
Right.
fact, that's perfect. Less is more in a drum circle,
Yeah.
so you
And
can
that's
hear in between the notes.
absolutely, and that's one of the I think the most important parts that that I've found is that idea of that it's fail proof, where you come in, you can be yourself, and it's okay if you mess up. I'm sure you've encountered this too, but the people that come tend to, the newbies especially, tend to be a little shy, sometimes anxiety ridden about being perfect. As a classically trained musician, that was what was ingrained in me. Either it's perfect or it's not good enough, and it's
Right,
wrong. And there's
right.
a lot of that in our culture.
And a beginner walks in and thinks that they have to perform,
Right.
and that they will be judged. I've got a write up. I'll send it to you. And it's the unwritten laws of drum circles, right? All the kinds of things that just normal um, interactive socializing that in a drum circle that you would do, and then, it gets to the place where it's talking to the hotshot drummers, going, yeah, short blasts of grace and beauty are wonderfully accepted, but leave space for other soloists as well. That kind of stuff. How to listen as
Right.
much as you play, all those other kinds of things. But what I've added to that is a short list of suggestions for beginners.
Love it. Love
So
it. Love
I'll
it.
send that to you.
Please do.
Okay.
You've dedicated so much of your life to the community drum circle. I see that word community in everything that you do. What is it that is so important about connecting people? Like why is that so important to you that you've dedicated like a large part of your life to making that happen?
Um, it gets down to the basic that this is a way to connect with community. It's also a way to connect community. It's a way to build community. And it also brings you to the now.
Mm.
So, number one, it's a meditation because what you're playing is appropriate for that moment. And then the next moment, the rhythm goes through its changes because everyone else is going through their changes.
Right.
And now it forces you to be here now in that next beat, that next moment, to respond to and listen to and get that connection that goes beyond, oh, hi, hello, how are you doing? Nice to meet you, kind of stuff, down to the essence of sharing your rhythmical spirit. And your rhythmical spirit comes from a place in you that is as old as you are.
Yeah,
Okay?
I like
It
that.
is that for a lot of people who first encounter a drum circle, it just washes away all of the social training that they've been given that stops them from being able to express themselves. You know, it's like women should be seen, not heard.
Right. Right.
Okay, or you have to be a musician to be able to contribute to an ensemble kind of thing like this. No. Okay, all of these other things. So it gets into the place where they can start doing what they did as a small child. And if you look at small children who are toddlers, who haven't been socially trained yet, grow up and act your age.
Right.
I've heard that, and I've also heard, but I am acting my age. Um, um, there's a natural, rhythmical exploration of the world from self to the world that they come up with their own little songs, and they don't even know that they're songs. They haven't even called them songs yet, and they're doing their little dance, and they're they get a wooden spoon, and all of a sudden everything is an instrument, right?
Yeah.
And and to to bring that fierce innocence into a drum circle at the age of 20, 30, 40, 80, doesn't matter, and to get to that place where it's an ageless thing,
Right.
where you become part of something that's bigger than you. And in that bigness, there is beauty and grace and music. Music? Music in a drum circle? How could that be? Isn't this just supposed to be noisy fun? Yes. Okay. But within the noise, when there is connection, the quality of the music that's being created in that connection has nothing to do with the rhythmical or musical expertise of the player. The quality of that music has everything to do with the quality of connection that those players are making. And as a beginner person in a drum circle event, you don't know that, and you don't have to know that.
Right.
You've got a facilitator who's coming in because the rhythm is being disconnected because some egos are getting in the way, or disconnecting because there's a disconnection, and
Right.
helping reconnect the group back into um, collaboration.
So really, what you're doing and what you've been doing for many years is breaking some of the norms that, in some ways, aren't helpful, like the norms of perfection, the norm, or the thought that I should be perfect, or
Right.
the, be seen not heard, or act your age. Those things that we have come to believe are the right thing, in some ways really limit us, especially in terms of feeling free enough to express and to get the benefit of that expression.
The right things in the right places, but not in this place. And so all of a sudden, you're given an environment where judgment is thrown out and experimentation is encouraged. Failure is encouraged. So there's a Japanese word called wabi sabi, and we could spend a whole program on just the definition of what that is, but it's perfect in its imperfection.
Yeah.
As one point of view to look at this. In America, everything has to be chrome and shiny and perfect, and all the lines meet perfect, and all the designs, and so on and so forth. And there's this element of nature that gets taken out of perfection. And within an in the moment music drum circle, imperfections is what helps create the expression and expansion of musical exploration and connection.
Right. And it's
Ooh, did
wild
somebody
because
write that down? That was good.
no, we got it. It'll
Oh,
be
okay.
in a transcript. And what you're talking about, judgment and failure, in all the students I've worked with throughout the years, younger people and older people too, and everybody in the middle, those are like top two biggest fears that I'm going to be humiliated somehow, that I'm going to not be good enough somehow. And so if I think there's a chance of that, forget it. I'm not going to do that,
Right.
which is
Or you
it's
do
very
that with
sad.
that mindset. You walk in, okay, I'm going to do it, but I've got that mindset. Okay, so there's this. So I taught at the UCSC, University of California, for 16 years,
Yeah,
and I taught village music on the hill, overlooking beautiful Santa Cruz.
I would have
And
taken that class.
uh, uh, my favorite class in the world. If I ever retire, that's where I'm going back to. And the students are students, and they've gone through the school system, and now they're in college. Da, 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 da. And now they see this guy on the hill who's doing a fun drum class kind of thing, and so they come up with that mindset of, I'm a student, you're the professor, okay, here we go, and I'm going to do my best to learn, and so on and so forth. And yeah, I'm teaching culturally specific rhythms, but I'm actually teaching the universal principles of hand drumming by using some of these rhythms with those universal principles like the clavi built into it, and
Right.
upbeats and downbeats and shuffles and all that other stuff. And this is what an upbeat looks and feels like, so on and so forth. So at the beginning of every class, I make them jam, just jam out. And they go, do what? Can
How
you
do
show
we?
me how
Yeah,
to jam
right
out?
on the board.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, we don't have a board. We've got an oak tree that we're underneath. And then we do all the study that we need to do in culturally specific and starting to learn how to play clavi and then put the clavi on the drum and turn it into a rhythm and so on and so forth. And then at
Yeah,
the end, I wash it all away by having them jam again, you know.
I
And
like
so
that.
slowly but surely they understand that there's this ex personal expression aspect of it that's not built in to the culturally specific aspect of it
Right.
until you can get relaxed and merge the two together.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And so when people do this, people that are drumming regularly, like you and I know because we do it, but what kinds of things health wise might it help them with? What have you seen?
I'm 73 years old and I still have a brain.
Yeah, you do.
Okay? And I attribute a lot of that just to the acuity of paying attention to the minutia of the details in a drum circle,
Right.
and being able to be a participant. What have I got to contribute to this moment at this time? And so it is a meditation that helps fine tune and take the fuzziness out of your attention span and your focus. What's important? Where is this music going? And what can I contribute to that direction of that particular force? Um, so there's a certain aspect of of you know
It's higher level thinking.
oh
It's critical thinking, but
yeah,
it's also in the moment critical thinking, and
that's
that's
yeah,
it.
and that's just one aspect of this. Listen, here's my recommendation. Ask Christine Stevens.
Mm-hmm. I'll do
Okay.
that.
I mean, you could spend on that question alone the whole interview. Okay.
Great.
And in regards to um, the aspects of, you come in off the street, you've had your day, and now you're participating in a drum circle. And you come to this experience, and you're not sitting in an audience being entertained. It's not a movie. There isn't a band on stage. You are part of the band, and there's no written music passed down to you.
Right.
Okay, it's you are writing that music with the collaboration of everybody else in the moment. So it's asking all of who you are to be all of who you are in that moment. What happens is, if you had a fight with your girlfriend, you're worrying about the rent.
Right.
You've had a particular problem that you haven't been able to solve at work. Or there's some emotional contextual or nearly gotten in an accident coming to the drum circle. It's like, and you got the in your life, and you bring it to the drum circle and you drum it out. It's gone. And all of a sudden, your life, regardless of who you are and what was going on before, has improved a little bit on some level.
Right.
Now, if you want to go to the really, really deep stuff, talk to any drum circle facilitator, and they will give you a handful of stories that will make them cry while they're telling you it and make you cry while you're listening to it. You go, in a drum circle?
Yeah.
Really? So, and all of them are different. But you go to, you understand tithing? Give 10% back to the church
Tithing, yes.
in your life.
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm as an ex-retired Mormon, thank God. Um, um, my tithing, it goes back to the Church of Rhythm. So I find myself doing an orphanage in Mumbai or a Parkinson's disease center in my favorite one is in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, or special needs, they call it for spastic children, school in Taipei. Uh, and you watch it, there's a lady who just passed away that I saw at the Parkinson's Disease Center in Kuala Lumpur when I would do my tithing drum circle there, and she full on Parkinson's,
Right.
full on. You just couldn't hardly hang on to the mallet and the drum, the hand drum that she had. And then I go 1, 2, let's all play.
And she's in.
She's in. She's in. It's gone. Whatever is stopping her mind from connecting to her body to be able to control her body, it's gone. And then the minute I stop and I start talking, okay, she's going. Okay, and so she helps me not talk so much in my own drum circles because I just love watching her be fully present.
Yeah.
Now, what kind of technical aspect, medical research that's been done around that, I have no idea, and I don't think there has been any. But we all have those anecdotal stories. Here's
Nice.
the one that I throw, and I'll do a shorter version of it. I'm in Kessel, Germany, in the middle of Germany. I'm doing a drum circle for 300 people in the middle of this town in Germany, which has a full-on drum circle community, drum circle facilitator, so on and so forth. And we're in a circus tent that's on Monday night. That's in the park near the river, and I love the old German circus tents because you walk up the steps to the entrance of the tent, and then it's just a ring of seats going down and down and down and down and down. Perfect drum circle,
Yeah.
right?
Nice.
And so I'm in the middle of the drum circle. We've already done drum call, connected everybody together, started moving into exploring and developing different rhythms with the group itself, and dancing on the edge of chaos, which is so wonderful. And there she is. She appears at the entrance, and she's clutching a doumbek in her hand, and she's wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, and she's 80 years old.
Wow.
And going, what the hell? And the only seat that's available is my seat at the down at the first circle. Okay, so I bring her down and I put her in the seat and I show her how to play the drum a little bit, and I continue to facilitate the event. As the event progresses, I look over and she is just washing away her mascara with her tears.
Wow.
Now, it's not California, so I can't go, oh, honey, you need a hug. You don't do that. It's Germany. Hi.
Germany. A
You
little
know,
bit different. Yeah.
and she smiles I look at her and I kind of raise my hand, you okay, kind of thing, and body language between us, she just waves me away and continues to play and smile and still continues to cry. Now, that's a story. I know that that's a story. And I don't know if I'm going to get that story or not, because we know we don't always get all of the stories that we do as when we're facilitating these events.
Right.
And so we have the drum circle. It was fantastic. She disappears in the crowd. I'm outside the entrance of the tent saying, thank you for coming to Rhythm Church. I hope you enjoyed the sermon. And I've got a line of people waiting for me to sign their whatever, that kind of stuff, and for them to give me stories. And here she is out in the woods next to the river, and she's holding the hand of a young man who I know, who's a drum circle enthusiast who speaks English. And I go, I'm going to get that story. And she's waiting for everybody to get out of the way so she can tell me that story in private.
Wow.
And that's what happens. And here's the story. Not even 20, maybe early 20s. She marries her childhood sweetheart. He goes off to the Eastern Front, Germany, World War II, dies. She becomes a widow before she turns 20, and stayed a widow till she was that evening, that night, 80 years old, always wearing black, living downtown in her apartment. And she said, and this is what really got me, was that she felt the drum circle in the park before she heard it. And then she opened up her window and looked out into the park and saw that there was a circus tent, and that's where that was emanating. She was curious. It drew her to it. And so she ends up at the entrance of the tent. And like good German, my assistant shoved a drum in her chest and shoved her into the circle, and there she was. And she sat down and played. During the playing, she got in touch with that place that wouldn't let go of her boyfriend, her husband.
Wow.
Couldn't let him go, and so she remained a widow because of that, in mourning. And she created her own little ceremony, and she drummed him away, saying goodbye to him. Okay? And while she's telling me the story, I mean, just bright, brilliant, was a little old lady, looking up and with her bright, beautiful, brilliant blue eyes, and talking so fast that the translator, college kid, had to slow her down. And she was telling this story, this amazing story about how the vibration of the circle reached into the hard place, made it soft so that she could say goodbye finally to her lost lover. And I could guarantee you that she woke up the next day and went, what's all this black stuff? I should go downtown and buy some clothes. And I could guarantee you, because the next year when I did that drum circle again, she was there, all dressed up, all kinds of pretty, at 81 years old.
Wow.
Okay? So here is the story behind that story. The vibration created by the community drum circle bypasses everything. It's like water seeking its mother, the ocean. And it goes around any blockage to the place that needs that vibration the most. If it's a broken heart, if it's a broken body, if it's a broken mind,
Right.
it doesn't matter. And it'll go to that massage and that place and massage it and 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 relax it. It may not heal it. I'm not going to write up a prescription for you if you've broken your arm to go to a drum circle to get it healed. Okay? And we have to be very careful about the use of the word healing and drumming in relationship to how about music therapists? Okay, they have to be very careful about the use of the word drumming and healing, and yet
Right.
now drumming is a part of their process and their protocol, and so it goes to that place, the place in the heart, the place in the body, the place wherever it is, and massages it into softness. And it's a healing process, regardless of how you define what healing is, and just makes the world a better place and makes it more accessible.
Yeah, and I mean, isn't that what music has been doing for humanity for as long as we have record of it?
Ding. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
And drumming is an extension of that.
yeah.
And
I,
for a
I,
beginner walking into a drum circle, they may not hear the music first. They might just hear loud, joyful noise.
right.
But the combination of low drums, medium drums, high drums, and the different kinds of timbres and the bells and the shakers and the woods, especially once they're pointed out and showcased by the drum circle facilitator, teaching without teaching, okay, all of a sudden they start to hear the interaction of the different timbres and pitches and dynamics
Yeah.
and start becoming a musician. It doesn't mean that at the end of the drum circle that they can go audition for a band, but there's a certain sensibility of understanding what you're contributing to as you're expressing your rhythmical spirit and sharing it with everybody else. We'll never get around to your holistic questions, but it doesn't matter.
Oh,
This
we're
is
already in them, man. It's
okay.
great. This is great, 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 great. I think that you know, one of the things I admire the most about you is that you decided somehow to make a system where a lot of people could help break those unhelpful ideas about expression and perfectionism and failure. Like the system that you built over decades, it is magnificent and brilliant and has touched, you know, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people. And what I'm wondering is, like, what prompted you to create this? Like, what prompted you to start leading drum circles?
Okay. So first of all, Jim Donovan, thank you for that lovely compliment. Okay.
I
And
mean it.
I'll pretend it's true. But in actuality, um, the system was built around me. I was a young, a passionate, egotistical fart. Okay. Uh, that's a nice name for the word asshole. And I had my passion. That's all I had. It was all about my passion. I didn't care about the rest of the world. Okay. My first bilophone was the wooden steps down to the basement, and I knew I finally figured out that I really was crazy, because when I flipped and slipped on my brand new church shoes that I was using to play the bilophone, because the notes were lower at the high end of the steps and higher at the low end of the steps, and I was hopping around the steps to play the bilophone and
Okay.
slipped. I found out that in ecstasy of pain and ecstasy of music, that my elbow hitting the steps and my forehead hitting the steps sounded better than my shoes. Okay, that's my first bilophone. At the bottom of the basement is this huge, enormous sheet metal furnace, just covered in metal to protect me and from being burnt up. And it just had so many wonderful sounds. You'd hit it, and the sides of the big side would rumble the whole basement. Okay, and that was my first musical instrument. My first teacher was a mockingbird who would come to the willow tree in our backyard and sing when I got home for lunch from school, which is only a couple of blocks away, uh, until I learned his song and started singing him back, and he flew away. And I got upset. My dad told me, "Well, that's what mockingbirds do. They sing their territory, and they're challenging other mockingbirds." And I was really sad that I scared my teacher away because he taught me all these great little ditu ditu ha, things. And I sat underneath the tree eating lunch without him for a week, and he came back. And when he came back, he'd practiced, and he added ditu ditu kiku onto his other songs. Okay, and he was looking for the guy who chased him away from his territory and went with his new songs.
Whoa.
Okay, so that passion that I had, I took into the world and
Yeah.
found out I didn't fit, especially in Utah, in the Mormon society where they wouldn't let me twist with Chubby Checker.
Oh, sorry.
Too much lower bottom movement. Um,
Keep it all right up here.
yeah, right. So rhythm has been my passion all my life. Before I knew it was rhythm, and music has been my passion all my life. Before I knew it was rhythm, and so here I in the military, getting ready to go to Vietnam, and taking my breaks in San Francisco, and going to two places, Hippie Hill, right outside the Panhandle, overlooking the park, to play with the hippie thunder drummers. And no offense intended, they were hippies and they were thunder drummers. And they were proud of that terminology. Now it's a curse word. Okay, and at the same time, I was taking lessons from culturally specific Afro-Cuban drummers in the streets of San Francisco. And so I was actually playing with two sides of the same coin, where one side of the coin is you're learning all these aspects of how to listen to, cooperate, collaborate, and make music together with drumming, and playing parts that fit with other parts that fit within the timbres and the pitches of a drum circle that represented the musical culture from lots of different places, not just Africa or Afro-Cuba. Okay, and then there were all these rules around how to be able to do this, and a lot of them were music training rules, right?
Right.
How to use your notes to make space for other people, okay, within the context of a defined pattern, group of patterns that made a song that had a name, that had a history, that had a purpose,
Right.
and that had a culture. The other side, you go to Hippie Hill, and it's like, hey, man, just let it all hang out. There rules. We don't need no stinking badges. Uh, and there's all this free form expression that was amazing, and the magic would happen, and then there would be they would just fall apart,
Right.
and then we'd all go, "Hey, man, that was cool. Let's do it again." And we would do it again, and until it would fall apart, and it always fell apart, and not always would there be magic. It was playing on the edge of chaos. There was something in between the two that would happen, and I was 18 years old, getting ready to go to war, and uh, these were one of the last circles I was going to do before I suited up with my guns and stuff, and I just got mad because I was a young, angry man, and I got in the middle of a circle that was starting to fall apart at the Hippie Hill Thunder Drummer Circle, and because it was only two or three people who weren't listening to us, it was creating the disconnect, and we were into some beautiful music, and I walked in the middle circle and I pounded my fist into my palm of my hand, going, "Here is the goddamn beat, damn it! Just listen to that." And so that was my first facilitation. It's like,
Nice.
the beginning of the movie where they throw the bone into the air and you discover that it's a tool. Okay, and And
This reference caveman.
and,
I just let's high five on that. That's
boom. And I sit down as the young, angry young man, and that was the first time that um, this disconnected rhythm within that reconnected itself for
hmm,
an extensive period of time, and I didn't have to do anything. All I did is pound my fist. Here's the pulse, damn it, and it was all done. And it was the first time I actually heard an actual fade out to nothing,
wow.
rather than just a fumble, bumble, rum, blah, 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 what we call crash, burn, and die rhythm.
Yes.
Uh, and the guy next to me went, "Hey, that was pretty cool. Next time, use a cowbell." I went, and that was
Even
the beginning of my career, but I didn't really know what I was doing.
yeah.
I didn't even really know why I was doing it. And slowly but surely, I started facilitating drum circles when there was an opportunity and when it was appropriate.
Yeah.
Um, from that, I found all the universal aspects of conducting applied, but within a context of in the moment music, where you had to allow for emergence to happen. And it wasn't until in my UCSC days that I actually got together a group of people who were apprenticing with me to teach them how to facilitate an in the moment music drum circle. By that time, I was taking drum circles into schools and into corporations, into personal growth programs, and all this. And I was just experimenting, fearlessly experimenting to see what would work within what context and what wouldn't work.
Right.
And I had people come up and go, "How did you do that, man? Wow!" And I would really have to say, "I don't know." It was, to me, it was just a kinesthetic thing that I was learning. I
Yeah.
didn't actually think about what I was really doing or why. And also, I wasn't thinking about how would I teach someone else how to do what I did. And so I had to start thinking uh, in that regards, in that way, in order to teach and break down a system of application. And my intention in the beginning was, well, I'm going to teach people who are already drumming, who already have drumming sensibilities and rhythmical contextualization. Ooh, that's a big word.
Big.
Uh, uh, and show them how they can make the rhythm accessible to non-drummers and be able to actually make a profession out of it, because most of the drummers I knew were starving musicians in 9 bands, right? Uh, you did roots. You only had one band, and you had actually had a job.
Well,
Uh,
before that was what you talked about.
okay. uh, and um, and how to be able to adapt these technologies and what I ended up calling protocols
Yeah.
to different kinds of populations, like kids in school, corporate training stuff, all that kind of stuff, which I was doing. I was making a living out of doing that. And that's when we started doing the 3-day drum circle facilitator trainings and then started our first Hawaii. This would have been our 25th Hawaii this year in a
Wow.
row. The
Amazing.
6-day program that we do in Hawaii. Hey, life's a dance. But what happened was my ego got smacked by, it wasn't just drummers that were showing up. It was people who were caregivers in some way, music therapists, kids at risk counselors, school teachers.
Right.
Okay, because that was what I was doing. I was going into these places as a job to facilitate opening ceremonies for conferences for music therapists and for school programs and blah, 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 blah. And they're going, "How do you do that?" And they started teaching me, okay, as long as I learned how to shut up and listen to them. So when I go to a music therapy conference now and I do a pre or post 6-hour drum circle facilitation, I will do a, game, a drum circle game of some sort, and then stop and say, well, what do you think about that? And then I pull out my pen and paper and let them talk to each other. And they would actually define what it was I was doing with inside their culture and how to make it work. Okay, we would do that, except that we would make it this way. Okay, make it this way. Okay, and so it's the community who has moved me into a particular emotional intelligence in relationship to serving community through this tool, and that it's not about just getting in the middle of the circle and being the great drum circle facilitator, but learning how to serve the music, because the music represents the consciousness of the
Right.
group.
That's beautiful. What a great story. And I wonder, what first of all, what I really like about what you said is that you found that you know, maybe that when you were going in, that you were the one being of service to the group, which you were. But
Big
then,
surprise to my ego.
well, then I also heard you say that you allowed the group to be of service to you. That's Yeah. I mean, it's the circle. That's the
Yeah.
magic of the circle. If, like you're saying, if we're open to listening as well as the giving and the listening, allow that circle to really finish itself.
Um, I've been doing this for almost 50 years, drum circle facilitation. I've been training for about 35, 40 years.
Yeah.
Um, I now have 32 certified drum circle facilitators who are working in 22 countries, including America, who are doing the 3-day training programs that I initiated and created.
Great.
These people help me initiate and create these training programs. They didn't, I didn't pick them. They picked themselves. And they mentored me in this process, and are my partners and my equals in this mission that we are on. And um, they're there because they could speak truth to power and say, Arthur, yeah, but no. And
We
have you
need
ever
those people, right?
yeah, you need those people. Otherwise, you get what we call founder's disease. Okay? And we've seen lots of representation of that.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep. Indeed. Indeed. You know, I don't know when this was in your experience, but I know that you studied with this beautiful human being, Babatunde Olatunji, and I wondered if you could talk about that a little bit, your friendship and things you learned. I don't know a whole lot about that. I'm very curious about that, if you're willing.
Mm. I don't know if I can talk about Bob without crying.
It's all right.
Like most people, I'm in the college dorm and I hear Drums of Passion on the stereo uh, and I'm going, whoa! Back in those days, even in jazz, you didn't find very much drumming going on or rhythm stuff except for the salsa-oriented jazz and Cal Jarder, and so on and so forth. That was Babatunde Olatunji and Drums of Passion. I went, whoa,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, ha. Um, and it wasn't until 10 years later, maybe less, that we finally ran into him. That I finally ran into him and started working with him. And he was doing these college circuit programs where he would take Drums of Passion and do a performance and spend a weekend doing workshops. And so slowly but surely we managed to take him out of the performance mode and into more workshop mode. And I just became a student of Baba Olatunji's, like everyone else.
Right.
And we were learning this and learning that. And he's an eclectic um, um, a drummer mainly because he was the one who brought rhythmic culture from Africa to America that nobody knows about. Because within his Drums of Passion band, he would bring Tito Sampa, Logic Camera, and the list goes on and on and on. And they would work with him for a year or two, and he would teach them how to operate in America. And then they would go on and become who they are, Logic Camera and Tito Sampa, so on and so forth. And leave the band, and he would bring somebody else in from Africa. Uh, and so he literally birthed the ethno African rhythmic culture scene by bringing these master drummers into his troupe, teaching them how to operate in America and move on. And so I got to work with a lot of those people, um, uh, but stayed with Baba to the point where I started being the assistant, helped him write a couple of rhythm books.
Hmm.
Um, and being a good Nigerian, he would come to his programs 1 or 2 hours later so that I would end up doing the beginning warm-up rhythms for the beginning beginners and so on and so forth.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden I was in his West Coast version of the Drums of Passion band. What I discovered was he wasn't there to teach us African rhythms. He was there to teach us about life. And he worked on that level. And it was it was all about how to be able to be there for the community and support the community in that process and build community through rhythm, dance, and song. And he paid due respect to culturally specific rhythms. And at the same time, he did arrangements of those rhythms that made it more accessible uh, to the Western consciousness.
Right.
And so he was teaching love. He was teaching love. Disguise. He had a little toolbox called Drum, Dance, and Song Africa, but he was teaching love. And so I became part of the band and would be driving him around to the gigs and um, roading for him and repairing his drums, and a relationship started up besides student and teacher,
Yeah.
and then a friendship, and then a mentoring. The mentoring was that he would not be afraid to tell you the hard truths. Okay, and with that, he became my father figure as well as my mentor in so many ways. Um, his mission was to put a drum in every household. That was it. And he says it's not going to happen in my lifetime and may not happen in yours, but if you stand on my shoulders and you have somebody stand on yours, it'll happen in theirs. And we're heading to that there is more and more drums in every household as we just start you know finding that it's a tool for expression and connection, that you don't have to be a drummer to drum.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. And so, yeah, I stand on Baba's shoulders. And everything I do, he's still standing on my shoulder, yelling in my ear when I'm heading in the wrong direction.
What was one of the hard things that he told you? Do you remember?
Yeah, it's not all about you. So when you get in the middle of the circle, right, you're there to serve the circle.
Yeah.
Okay? And sometimes I see you forget that it's about the circle. And so you're using the circle to serve yourself,
Yeah.
your small self. Why not serve your big self? And that's what we meant by the community. It's like, whoa, okay. What you mean? It's not all about me, but it's all about me at the same time? Really? You know, that's one of the slaps I got. Another one. First time I met him, I was a hippie thunder drummer. I was doing culturally specific drumming, but I was a hippie thunder drummer, which meant that I had calluses on my hands from here to here. In fact, in those days, I had to make love with my elbows because I couldn't feel anything with my hands.
Wow.
You might have to edit that out for the younger crowd. Uh, and and we're drumming, and he takes a look at my hands and he says, "What is this?" And I'm very proud of my calluses because I'm the loudest drummer in the world. Okay, bam, ooh, okay, and that's what part of the hippie thunder drumming is about. If they can't hear you, right?
Right.
And what's this? And I'm about to answer him with all the pride that I have in the calluses that I've developed. And he answers me, "This is stupidity."
This.
You need, and the technical response to it was, you need the calluses inside your pads, not on the outside. Okay?
Wow. Yeah.
Okay? And it took me, I mean, look, we have habits. And so I had 15, 20 years of just pounding on the drum until I peed blood, right? Okay? And going, oh, well, peeing blood is just a part of being a drummer. No, it's a part of being stupid. Breaking your capillaries in your fingers.
Yeah.
And so it took me as much time consciously drumming with technique to get rid of the calluses as it took to put those calluses on.
Wow.
Okay? But luckily, I was drumming more often consciously than I was drumming unconsciously. So in real time, it only took a year to get rid of my calluses, even though it took 10 years to build them up. Okay.
That's a good lesson. It's a good lesson for all those people that are out there cranking.
Yeah. You gotta love Baba. Okay. You gotta tell the hard truth sometimes. And that's one of the reasons why those 32 certified village music drum circle trainers are certified trainers, because they speak truth to power, and each and every one of them in their own way
Right.
has looked at me and said, "See this? This is stupidity."
Yeah.
I go, "I think you're a candidate."
Yeah. Thank you. You're in.
Because it's most of them. My relationship with them is about 20 years, and that's a relationship that Baba had with me. To get to that point where I could realize that my students are no longer my students; that they are my teachers.
Yeah.
And
Beautiful.
and they can do what I do because they're following me or walking with me on this path just as good, if not better, than I do. When we were doing the training to make them trainers, we would do a TTT training, 3-day training, and advertise it as co-facilitation. We were lying, of course, because most of my teaching is lying in order to get to the truth. But you got to tell them the lie to get to the truth. And so co-facilitation, but in actuality, I'm pushing them out in front, and they're following the training protocol, and they're teaching the way Arthur would teach, and they're saying the words that Arthur would say, but from their style and their perspective and everything else.
Yeah.
And then when they were done with that section, they go, "Arthur?" And then I would stand up and I would either cover their ass with something that they missed, reinforce what they were saying, because there was something that I needed to reinforce, but they said it, but it just needed to be emphasized a little more, or tell a story that related to what they just did. So if I was telling them a story, they could go, "Ah." If I was reinforcing or covering their ass without looking at like they made a mistake, just adding an extra element into it,
Yep.
they'd be writing furiously. Well, Tomoko Yokota in Japan, Tom Tom, when she did her training the trainer, 3-day training, she would stand up and teach my program better than me.
There you
And
go.
I was writing notes furiously. About halfway through the program, it goes, Arthur, you're writing all these notes, but you're not giving them to me. What? What? Help me here. What's going on? I'm not writing these notes for me. You're teaching me how to do my program better than I can. So just keep on doing what you're doing because it's perfect.
What
But
a
I don't want to tell you that because then you think that you're perfect.
You got a long way to go, but what did you
Right, yeah. I have to lie to her a little bit. Okay? So it's a wonderful experience to follow your bliss,
Yeah.
find out that you are actually have a purpose that's doing good within the community, that is starting to build itself around you, but building itself because they need the tool you have to offer them. And then find in that community other elders in training who are walking the path, who can do it as well as you. Okay? So at the age of 73, in this process, I'm only doing the 6-day trainings, and with my training partner, Jim Bono, the 10-day mentor trainings, leadership trainings in this process. And now, all over the world, the three-day training programs that are the Village Music Circle, Drum Circle Facilitator training programs are being done by all of these people, and we'll be sending you the certified global Village Music Circle trainer webpage, so you can see what country and where that's all happening and how to make the contact with those people. And so now I'm only going to 5 or 6 countries a year instead of 10 or 14. Okay, I mean, I would look as good as you if I didn't travel so much.
Ah, come on.
Well, look, just look at the hairline.
Yeah, I got a hairline coming. It's coming. What, so, well, first of all this information that we're talking about, so the website, the drums of passion music, I'm going to include all of that stuff in the show notes so that all the listeners can go to donovanhealth.com/podcast, and they'll be able to find your podcast and all the different things we're talking about. There'll be a full transcript of the entire interview so you can read it at your leisure.
Thank you. That's my new book.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, take it, use it. It's all good. And I really want to encourage people when they go see that to really poke around and check out everything Arthur's got to offer, because he's got a great blog where he talks about his travels and the things that he does with regards to facilitating music and rhythm and drumming with people. It's such a wealth of knowledge. Before I let you go, I'm wondering of
Uh,
all.
there's a couple of things you got to do before you let me go.
Oh yeah, okay,
Okay. What I'm going to be sending to you, I think I've already sent it to you in the email, is a URL for Rhythm Research and Resources.
okay,
That's put together by Peter Shear and Christine Stevens. Has been curating it, and
great,
it's been sponsored by the Drum Circle Facilitator Guild,
awesome.
which is an organization designed to bring us all together and help support us in our mission. Okay,
Yep.
and just that alone, once you get into that resource website, you can find how rhythm benefits in different ways, different studies and different researches, covering anxiety, depression, child and adolescent work, uh, uh, um, trauma, psychological brain stuff, all that kind of stuff. Okay?
Yeah,
So,
beautiful.
uh, yes, you can go to my website and get a lot of entertaining stuff and resources to the trainings that are happening around the world. Uh, but by tapping into the uh, Rhythm Research and Resources webpage, you'll get more questions answered than you thought you had.
Sounds like my kind of place. Absolutely.
Good.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Okay, I'm going to
Uh,
turn off my background.
well, hold on. I got one important question for you.
Oh, I got 20 answers for any one question. You know that.
That's what I love about you. I can just sit and listen and enjoy. So, of all the things that you've done, all the thousands of people you worked with, the stories that you've gained over the years and still are gaining, um, what are you most proud of? Like what makes you smile?
Well, the preference and what are you most proud of? I could go to that. But then you add what makes you smile, and I take a look at that process, and I have to answer my grandson.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm proud that as crazy of a fool as I am, to be able to actually decide not to get a job and to follow my bliss to the point of having to, at a couple of points, be on welfare and food stamps, to be able to find that place where you're doing your bliss and sharing your bliss and making a living from it because it has a value to the community. Okay? That's that feels good. But the fact that a guy who grew up as a drummer, and a crazy drummer at that, okay, could actually raise a couple of children, keep his marriage intact, and actually have a grandson, okay?
What's his name?
Oh, his name is Jameson, which is really a really bad name. I wish if they were going to name him after a whiskey, I had a lot of better quality names for him. But you know, we'll take a cheap Irish whiskey name.
Hey, what is with the big ball of string behind you there? I got to hear about that.
All right, this kind of wraps up our interview in a way. Look,
Okay.
in the beginning, there was a once I finally got what this was about, and that it wasn't about me, and that all these people in this circle standing around at the end of a 3-day training program had made essential connections because we played together for 3 days, did all of these exercises that brought us to the place of being here now
Yep.
and being truthful to yourself and learning how to follow the people who are following you and serve those people. What could I do to serve this? I would take a ball of string, I would hang on to it for our closing ceremony, and I would make a little statement, and I would roll it across the floor, and someone else would pick up that ball of string, and they would hang on to a piece of it, make their closing statement, roll it across the floor, and they keep on rolling it back and forth to everyone until finally the last person made their statement and rolled the string back across the floor again. I would pick up that ball of string. Everybody was hanging on to that string connected to two other people in the circle. Then we would hold the string up chest level and step back, and it would be a spider web.
Wow.
And the metaphor that we would create in that regard, I would create verbally, and that was that we're all now really connected together. That we have there are different walks in life. There's a professional drummer, and there's an orchestra conductor, and there's a kids at risk counselor, and there's a music therapist in the circle. But we've had this experience, and we're going to take this tool into our lives and serve our community. And at the same time, we are still connected. Okay, and I pull on one string and say, I'm going to pull on just one string between me and Robert over there, but notice everyone's feeling it. And that when you get into a community like this and you start and you keep your communication open and your connection open, okay, that you can pull on that one string and the rest of the community can feel it. Very nice. Great, great metaphor. Worked really well until we had 50 or 60 people. And now all of a sudden, there's all these statements, and then you start talking about at the end of the program, and everybody's crying, and you're talking for 5 minutes. That was a 3-hour closing. Not only that, but I would have to wrap up this stupid ball of string. Okay? Every single time. I am the greatest. Um, when you get a string all tangled up and everything, I'm the greatest knot detangler in the world.
Oh my God.
After hours and hours of, and then I'm in the middle of the floor, stepping on the string, trying to untangle, and some lady comes up and goes, "Oh, Arthur, here, let me. Oh, you go say goodbye to your friends over in the other room. I'll just wrap this up for you." I went, "Gee, thank you," and I went to the other room and said hug and goodbye and thank you for coming to Rhythm Church and so on and so forth. And she comes out and she's got a Rasta doll made out of the string. Nothing in it is cut. It's in my office. I wish I had it here.
Yeah.
But I still got it. And I saw this. She said, "Well, it got a little tangled." Here, the arms are sticking like that. They had rasta hair and rasta legs, and it was really, really well wrapped up and beautiful. That was the end of that. Not only that, because of the programs are getting larger, the closing statements are getting just okay. So we came up with a one-word closing, and then everybody would bring a piece of string, 3 feet long, and that would represent their contribution to the process. And so my daughter, when she was growing up, she had to try to explain to her friends what her father did for a living. Okay? And she finally gave up, and she said, "Oh, he collects string." So this is Asia last year. This is Europe. So I haven't put it in the string yet. I lose. This thing is heavy. It's solid string.
Oh my God.
I lose about 5 pounds every time I have to put a ball of string into the big ball of string. Okay.
That thing is so much bigger to scale than I thought it was when you were closer to the camera.
Yeah.
It's massive.
Wait till I get all these other training programs in. Okay. I will be 10 pounds lighter. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely. No, don't get a hernia. Oh my God, look at that.
I've already had the hernia from doing this. So this is my community.
Bravo.
It's at the entrance of our office. And it just reminds me, when I get all upset about process and egos and having to deal with the politics, the stuff that when you're an elder in a community you have to deal with, and I get all upset and mad, sometimes I just look at the ball of string and go, it's worth it.
Yeah. Oh, Arthur, this has been so great. I so appreciate everything you've done for me personally. Your book, Drum Circle Spirit, was my saving grace when I decided that I wanted to get out of a band and start working with people, and I didn't know where to start. You're where I started, and you're the first thing that made any sense to me. That even came close to what I would hope for.
Thank you. Well, then I'm very glad that I've been able to put my footprint on your ass.
Yes, over and over again.
Yeah, and that's what Bob has told me over and over again. Whenever I thank him, he throws away the thanks and says, footprint on your ass. So, and I totally understand and totally appreciate the work you're doing in your community, putting your footprint on your community's ass as well, just moving it forward. Okay.
That's the thing. We're here for a finite time, so let's get to it. That's what I think.
Jim, it's nice to see you again. Let's hang out some more, but without recording it, so I can swear often.
Absolutely, and we're going to keep all the swearing in because this is a swearing household. That's what we tell our kids' friends when they come over. So if you're not okay with that, don't come over. We don't mean anything by it. So hey, let's wave to each other, and I'm going to turn the recording off. It's nice.
God bless you, Jim.
Much
Thanks
love.
for this. I appreciate this. It was a wonderful time to hang out with you.
Agreed.